You have to see this one. Ricky Gervais is the type of comedian who fearlessly says what others won't. His sharp, brutally honest humor targets today's biggest issues, making him both controversial and incredibly popular for calling out uncomfortable truths. Today I'll share a few clips from his science show, and you'll definitely want to stick till the very end because the last joke exposes a lot of things. But before I go on with the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more discussions like this.
I hope I haven't offended anyone with any of the subject matter in this show. I really do. It's not the point, but if I have offended anyone, and I'm sure I have, then I don't apologise for it. Because there's a spate of comedians going, oh, sorry, I didn't mean it. Shouldn't have said it then. You're an idiot, right? They bow to this pressure of going, oh, these witch hunts going, are there things you shouldn't make jokes about? No, there's nothing you can't make a joke about. It depends what the joke is. Comedy comes from a good or a bad place. It's contextual. It's like this big debate about swearing. Is swearing okay on television? It depends. Use your common sense and your remote control. Don't write a letter. It's like, be warned, right? If it's a documentary about prisoners on death row, there's probably going to be a bit of language, okay? They've got nothing to lose, right? Whereas I'd complain if it was the news and Trevor McDonald came out and went, oh, nasty train crash, right? I'll go, no, Trev, do it straight. That's the news, mate. That's right.
Context is everything in comedy, and without it, jokes lose their meaning. When you strip a joke of its full context, its setup, its tone, and the relationship between the performer and the audience, well, it becomes easy to manipulate what might have been a clever observation or a satirical take on society suddenly looking at a malicious attack. Comedians like Dave Chappelle and Ricky Gervais have been targeted for this exact reason. Their comedy may touch on sensitive issues, but when the entire bit is heard, it's clear they are using humor to spark conversations, not to harm. The problem is that many in the woke crowd selectively choose the most controversial or provocative lines, ignoring the larger narrative or point the comedian is making. These isolated sound bites are then used to stir outrage on social media, leading to calls for cancellation. This tactic of gotcha moments completely disregards the layered nature of comedy. Ironically, those who claim to advocate for inclusion and understanding are the ones trying to shut people down. Watch how Ricky describes it here next.
What I'm saying is, there's this big thing about, sick jokes. Oh, sick jokes. Oh, sick joke. Thing is, you tell a sick joke with the express understanding that neither party is really like that. I wouldn't tell a sick joke to a known paedophile. I wouldn't go, here, mate, you are going to love this more than anyone, son. Right? Do you see my point? Right? And I've never been in trouble for anything I've said because I don't care what people think and I refuse to apologise for it.
In today's climate, very few comedians are willing to stand their ground against the woke culture, and many cave to the pressure of censorship. By the way, I've noticed that you haven't dropped a like and subscribe to the channel yet, so what are you waiting for? Comedy has always been about pushing boundaries, but now it seems those boundaries are being set by vocal groups on social media who demand safety and sensitivity over free expression. The fear of being cancelled has led to many comedians self-censoring or apologizing for jokes they made, even if the intention behind the humor was harmless. Take, for example, Kevin Hart, who stepped down from hosting the Oscars after past tweets were dug up and used against him. Rather than standing firm, he felt forced to apologize repeatedly even though his jokes were made years prior in a different context. This pattern is becoming all too familiar, with many comedians feeling cornered to make public apologies or walk back their material and avoid backlash. And what's insane is that even after they apologize, the damage is already done and they lose their jobs or sponsorship deals. Ricky also explores the topic of fear, and he has a really interesting take on it.
I should just say, not a lot of science. But then, if you've come here to revise for your thesis, you're to be honest. I should have called it an investigation into the rational and non-rational, because we imposed sort of scientific method on a few. We busted a few myths, remember? Fat birds losing weight and looking at... Remember that one? We did that. And we looked at a few things you may or may not believe in. Religion or racism, homophobia, two things I've never been a part of because they're born of ignorance and fear. And it's fear that I think threatens rational thought more than anything.
That's correct. The woke mob has used fear as a tool to push its narratives and divide society. It creates an atmosphere where people are too afraid to speak their minds or question certain ideas. The fear of being labeled racist, sexist, or homophobic. That's the exact reason why many people avoid discussing sensitive topics like gender identity and race out of fear. They will say something incorrect, and the result is a society where only one viewpoint can exist, and anything outside of that narrative is deemed unacceptable. This is the type of dynamic that creates the us versus them mentality. Those who don't parrot their opinions are seen as the enemy and are treated as villains, and people are made to be afraid of each other because they're being prevented from finding common ground or even discussing why they might agree. As promised, the last clip I'm about to show you demonstrates everything I analyzed in this video. Just watch it before I give you my take on it.
I've always considered myself a sort of liberal, rational sort of bloke, and then after 9/11, the world went a bit crazy. Understandably, the rules suddenly changed, and there was a lot of anger and fear and finger-pointing and hysteria. So, I'm flying all the time, right? And then it happened, okay? I was flying back from New York, 9:25, BA, first class, to London, JFK. The whole week in America, leading up to that flight, on every channel on TV, there was a rolling ticker tape that said America on red alert, okay? And every bulletin said, we have an intel that there's going to be another 9/11 this weekend in New York or LA. Do not fly unless you absolutely have to. I had to, I was filming. And I'm there, and about 15 minutes before boarding, into the first class lounge comes this guy. I don't know whether he was North African or Middle Eastern, but he had all the gear and beard, everything. Steel attaché case, okay? Here's your middle class, rational liberal. I go, so now I'm stewing on this, all the things for the week leading up to it. There's going to be a 9/11, it's going to be here, it's going to be today, it's going to be New York. Oh my God, right? But now I'm in two minds. There's a fight between good and evil, between rational and irrational, okay? So, this one goes, oh, that's a suicide bomber. Don't be stupid. What do you know? That's what they look like. Why'd you say that? There's a picture of him on every page of the Daily Mail. Don't be stupid. It's a cliche. Don't be stupid. Then he makes a phone call. I can't understand what he's saying, but he sounds a bit angry, right? This one goes, oh, we made a phone call. This one goes, you just made a phone call. Yeah, but not in foreign. And I'm having a little breakdown, and I'm nearly crying. And all this happens in a few moments. And I look over, and he's joined by his wife, who's got all the gear, and his two little girls, right? And I go, oh, of course he's not a f***ing suicide bomber. If you're off to see 72 Virgins, you don't take the wife and kids along. So, and I got on the plane, and I was sort of relieved and embarrassed, and I saw the funny side of it, and of course he wasn't a terrorist, he was a businessman and a family man.
See what he did there? This is one of the best constructed and thought out jokes I've ever seen in my life. That's the beauty of comedy when it's done right. It challenges the status quo and shakes us up. Ricky masterfully exposed how prejudices work and shined a light on things everyone would rather not admit. If anyone else were to tell the same joke in 2024, people would be quick to shout racist and bigot. But what they fail to realize is that when comedians get the freedom to push boundaries and say what's on their minds, they expose the absurdities that the rest of us might be too polite or too scared to talk about. That's what makes it so powerful. It gives us a way to laugh at the things that are broken, forcing us to look at them in a different light. Sure, some jokes will cross the line, but that's the price we pay for freedom of expression. Without that freedom, comedy loses its magic. It stops being a tool for change and becomes just another form of modern Hollywood, washed down entertainment, and stripped of its power to provoke real thought. So yeah, we need comedy without limits. A world that can't laugh at its own absurdities, well, that's a world stuck in place. And we all know that's not a world anyone wants to live in. What are your thoughts on this? Is this Ricky Gervais' most edgy performance? Let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below.